couple weeks ago, a funny little video popped up on my YouTube feed. The thumbnail caught my eye, and the first thought I had was, how is Honkai 3rd Impact better than Valorant? That's like comparing apples to ostriches or something. Then I looked closer at the title, Strinova. Here is an anime girl that looks straight out of a Hoyoverse title being compared to one of the biggest competitive shooters on the market. Obviously, for a weeb like me, I gotta take a look. What I didn't know at the time was exactly how much time I would sink into this weird anime shooter and how much I'd come to enjoy this game. That worked! That worked! No way. I'm split from you. Can you help? Help, 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 help.
Last one sniper, last one sniper.
Where is he?
You want You was cat.
残り40秒。黄金の幸。爆弾を置きましょう。諦めての完了。ご覧に入れましょう。マミータイム発動した。黄金の幸。ソナーパルススキャン。インビジいつでも行けるわ。
Watching this gameplay for the first time, the first thing that came to mind is probably the same thing you're thinking of right now. What the fuck is this weird Paper Mario bullshit? A shooter where you can turn into paper? I don't even know where to begin. I mean, the idea has a lot of implications. Gunfights probably feel very weird since you can reduce the size of your hitbox to a line, basically. But at the same time, there's a lot of cool ideas for movement and maneuverability with the wall sticking mechanic. I didn't know how to feel about it. I just thought this idea was utterly silly, but it was extremely novel. By novel, I mean I've never heard of or even thought of this idea as something that can be put in a shooter context. It's a cute idea. The game is clearly an anime game, but taking your visual design and morphing it into a justification for a gameplay mechanic tickled a funny part in my brain. All of the 3D anime waifus and husbandos are able to return to their roots and become 2D once more. Karyu's video was made in anticipation for the Strinova's closed beta test, so with little expectations, I decided to register for that test and give it a shot. Hopping into the game, I was thrown into the tutorial. The very first thing I thought after moving around was, wow, this game actually feels very smooth. It's hard to describe what about a game can make it feel smooth, but the most important factor, I think, is responsiveness. If I turned into paper mode or jumped, it happened instantly. It felt like my character was maneuvering at the speed of thought. Everything felt natural in this game that was utterly goofy and unnatural. Before we start comparing Strinova to other games, though, it's important to explain what Strinova is. The main game mode is a 5v5 demolition mode similar to Counter-Strike and Valorant. An attacking team needs to plant a bomb, the defending team needs to stop them. There are no respawns until after each round. You take turns attacking and defending, and the winner is the first to win 9 rounds. You get the gist. Now, there are other game modes, and this game is extremely casual friendly. I want to say that up front, but I will be talking more about this game mode because it's the one that relates to me the most. Now, obviously, this game mode is very similar to that of Counter-Strike and Valorant. It's so similar, in fact, that this game basically has Dust 2 from Counter-Strike, which I love. I love the idea of being able to play Dust 2 with like my anime waifus. What makes Strinova really stand out from the rest of the shooters is Strinova's unique key mechanic of paper mode. Officially, it's called Stringify, but I like paper mode. I think a lot of other people in the community like it too. But in Strinova, everyone has the ability to turn into a 2D paper cutout form, reducing their hitbox to a line from certain angles. The trade-off is that you cannot shoot while in paper mode, but you can still reload. This allows players to survive longer in gunfights fundamentally, and be able to get away a lot easier since you also take reduced damage while in paper mode. You can also turn into paper in order to glide in the air, as well as becoming a moving wall-running sticker, adding a huge layer of verticality to the overall gameplay and allowing for really silly cartoon plays like this one. Off the bat, it's really easy to call Strinova anime Valorant. And some, or even a lot, of people may say that it's better than Valorant, people who've tried the game. But in practice, Strinova feels completely different from the other tactical shooters. Time to kill is a huge reason for this. If you're unfamiliar, time to kill is a metric in shooter games that describes how quickly you can kill another player. In Valorant or Counter-Strike, the time to kill is almost instantaneous, given the prevalence of guns like the AK or Phantom that allow for one-shot headshots on automatic weapons, placing a lot of emphasis in tactical positioning. In games like Overwatch, the time to kill is a lot longer. Only sniper characters like Widowmaker can one-shot headshot a majority of the cast, but the majority of the characters in Overwatch vary in size and strength and ability, which means you often need to land a lot of shots, a lot of headshots even, in order to knock someone out of the fight. Strinova's time to kill is a mix between Overwatch and Halo, I think. It's not as slow as Overwatch for sure, since there are no tanks like Reinhardt, which take a million shots to bring down. But at the same time, it's not as quick as Halo's because paper mode exists. In Strinova, guns are locked to the characters you pick. So you have characters with snipers that can one-shot headshot, combat rifles, which take 2 to 3 headshots to bring down, and automatic weapons where shooting someone feels a lot like Fortnite and or Halo. And honestly, I think this is great. This is a tactical shooter very similar to Counter-Strike, Rainbow Six, Valorant, but the time to kill is a little more extended. It makes for a game that doesn't feel so intense. A majority of the cast play automatic weapons. These automatic weapons do not one-shot headshot, so whiffing a shot in Valorant is a lot more important than whiffing a shot in Strinova because there's not that much importance in landing that one-tap headshot. You can definitely miss a spray still, but paper mode can buy you enough time for the occasional comeback or allow for you to get back into cover. Staying alive is a lot easier in Strinova, which means utility and abilities are a lot harder to rule out completely within rounds. This makes the game feel totally different from Valorant, despite playing the exact same game mode. And this pattern repeats itself across the entirety of Strinova, where it does take elements from other games, but because paper mode and of Strinova's unique time to kill, it changes the application of these elements wildly. The biggest example of this are smoke grenades in Strinova. Similar to Counter-Strike, every player has access to utility items like flash and smoke grenades. Smoke grenades are used to block vision and discourage people from pushing through into a location. That's how they're usually used in Valorant and Counter-Strike. Pushing through a smoke is dangerous in those games because a defender watching the smoke will see the tip of the gun of the pusher first and be able to punish them almost immediately with a one-tap headshot. For this reason, smokers are a defender's favorite tool. A defender who spots numerous attackers will throw smoke at entrances and choke points to stall for enough time so that their friends can come help. So that's how smokes work in Counter-Strike and Valorant. But in Strinova, this paradigm is almost completely flipped. One-tap headshots are only reserved for snipers in Strinova, but even if snipers are holding a smoke placed at an entrance, the likelihood of the sniper getting a pick is drastically lowered when attackers pour through a smoke together, gliding through with some landing in paper mode and others shooting down targets. Not only that, but similar to Rainbow Six Siege, certain characters are restricted to attack and defense. On the attacker side, characters like Lawine and Fuchsia are able to be played, who have abilities that provide scans, which highlight enemies through walls and smokes, basically wall hacks, meaning attackers can shoot through the smoke while also utilizing it as visual cover. This turns a defender's favorite tool into an attacker's bread and butter. Speaking of throwable utility, what I also really like about Strinova is how accessible it is for casuals and newcomers. Utility and ability placement is vastly important in Counter-Strike and Valorant. You have to memorize and get a feel for how smoke and flash grenades are thrown, how the physics affect where they drop and where you're throwing, and how your momentum can carry the throwables. But the nice thing in Strinova is that instead of having to go through the painful process of learning the physics behind your throwable utility, it just straight up tells you where your grenade will land as you're throwing it. Honestly, seeing this in Strinova made me question why this isn't a thing in Counter-Strike or Valorant. The barrier of entry for these mechanically dense and competitive games are already so high. Why not just help the interested but newer player base out by providing indicators? Utility is important, lineups are important, but should they really require skill to execute? Aren't there plenty of other mechanics that require skill like raw aim and game sense? If a competitive game lives and dies by its ability to draw in a steady stream of newcomers, why not make it a little easier for them to interact with the game at a higher level? These are just a few reasons about why I really like Strinova. The game released about a year ago in China, but I had the pleasure of learning this game alongside thousands of other players who played Strinova for the very first time during this closed beta test. Throughout my time playing, I was able to reach as far as Diamond 5, which I was pretty happy with. It's not a huge player base to be sure, but the people I played with were all playing well and learning the game enthusiastically. A large reason why I never got into Counter-Strike or Valorant is because I never was able to find confidence in my plays or my ability, leading me to shy away from voice comms and overall dislike the ranked experience. In Strinova, something clicked, and I was able to not only build confidence in my ability, but also relax my ego and realize that it isn't the end of the world if I call for an occasional bad play. Most of the people I played with were friendly, very cooperative, or sometimes completely quiet, but that was alright. There was an understanding that we were all learning this game, and honestly, I feel like the mechanics made for an enjoyable experience. I also really do think that characters and design are a huge part of learning and wanting to be enthusiastic about learning the game. Like in Tekken or Street Fighter, the most important fundamental aspect of learning those games is finding a character that you enjoy losing with. In Strinova, I'm okay with playing any of the characters. I'm okay with learning and losing with any of the characters because the design is so connected to me. I like the design of the characters so much. The closed beta test is over, unfortunately, and honestly, I'm going to miss the game. I'm trying out a lot of new games lately, and it seems like the competitive market is revving up with a lot of fresh titles on the horizon. There is Fragpunk, and another game I've had the opportunity to play lately was Supervive, and I'll be honest, Strinova completely wipes the floor with it. To be fair, Strinova is actually a release game in China, and Supervive is in its alpha testing stage, but Strinova is only a year old and already manages to feel extremely polished and very smooth to play. Everything was responsive, my character controlled perfectly, and the gunplay was great. It's a focused experience with a steady learning curve instead of a huge mess of mechanics that overwhelms you with knowledge gaps. I feel a little bad ripping into Supervive, and honestly, this video was going to be more focused about talking about the jarring difference in my experiences with the two, but again, I don't think it's entirely fair. Supervive has a lot of work ahead of them, and they can very well still add that level of polish and strip away the copious amount of bloat that I think it has that makes it a pain to learn. Until that time, I might actually be grinding Strinova. Strinova right now is a game I can see myself pouring thousands of hours into. It's easy to learn, the character designs are perfect for a weeb like me, and most importantly, it is really fun to play. I really want to play Strinova and I want it to release soon badly. Personally, I think it's insane for them to do this big marketing push by sponsoring all these videos without a release date or even another beta test scheduled in sight. And honestly, I'm a little afraid. I feel like the game deserves so much more hype than what it has going on for it. If I could take half of Super 5's popularity and hype and put it into this game, I would, because I feel like people ought to give this game a shot. Anime aesthetic completely aside, I feel like this game carries itself on its own by being enjoyable to play at a high level while still being approachable and accessible to casuals. It really is the holy grail for people like me. People like me who are hopelessly drawn to the anime aesthetic and who have always craved for a competitive game to have the artistic design. But that same factor that draws me in is also something that I know will push others out. The game is not as casual as Genshin or Honkai Star Rail. A huge reason why those games do so well is because they're easy to play, easy to master, and they're on mobile platforms. The market is huge. The majority of the competitive gaming market in the West are not weebs. We're talking about a niche within a niche that this game aesthetically appeals to. Depending on when Strinova releases globally, I'm almost certain I will hop back on, grind it, and hell, maybe even make a few YouTube videos about it. But I'm not going to grind a competitive game for long if the player base is lacking. At least I don't think. I've never done that for any other game before. Me being as desperate as I am, missing the game as much as I did, and after writing the script, I actually did download the game, the Chinese version where I'm going to be playing on 300 ping. I might be live right now playing it, but I really like this game. Let me know if there are any videos, any specific guides or other type of contents you would like to see for this game. I like teaching and would love to help more people get into this game because it's good and I think it deserves it. Put it in the comments, like and subscribe. I'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks for watching.